So in our last video, we looked at collecting DC omnibuses, and for the Marvel ones, it got to be a little more daunting because Marvel has done a bit more and has a bit more variety and difference when it comes to their omnibuses. That's why this one is broken up into two parts. You'll find it wise as we go along, but welcome once again to Collecting Omnibus Marvel, Part 1. All right, so we're back and we're looking at Marvel. Marvel and DC are similar but very, very different when it comes to collecting omnibuses. That's why we're going to start right at the beginning for this one right here. We're going to start with Marvel's Golden Age books. They're very different than DC's. Here, for instance, is the Marvel Comics Golden Age, literally called the Golden Age of Marvel Comics, Volume 1. See right here, it is the original cover for Marvel Volume 1, Marvel Comics Volume 1. Altogether, we have 12 issues because just like in the DC one that I told you about, everything is included in here. So if you got like a character, it doesn't like just include like, say, in some of the DC ones like the Batman or Superman, it only includes the Batman or Superman stories. No, in this one here, it includes everything. Now, collecting these can be kind of pricey because they're remastering old books. And what that means for us is that we're getting really good remasters of books, but books that were done ages upon ages ago. So with the Marvel Comics one, it literally collects Marvel Comics 1 or Marvel Mystery Comics, which is the title was changed to, 2 to 12. It's the first 12 issues. And you get characters in there like the Human Torch, not the one that you're used to though, the Angel, the Submariner, yes, the one you're used to, Masked Rider, and a whole bunch of other characters, which will change as it goes through. And I love the artwork on this. I love the style that it's done in. And they're great and they're fun to collect. There's a whole different like library. There's a bunch. There's ones that are kind of creator centric, like the Simon Kirby ones, or there's the ones that are character centric, like the Submariner, the Human Torch ones. Those tend to be like very kind of pricier, closer to the $200 range. This one here I managed to get for extremely cheap from a guy that was selling off some of his books. Now, to go from there, I want to mention a creator-centric book and to show you something that you're going to see and come across when you're looking at these omnibuses. And this is the ManThing book. This is one of my favorites, actually. I love the character ManThing just as much as Swamp Thing. They're actually very different characters, and people kind of confuse them or try to like pit one against the other when they do their own unique things. Now, there's something very specific that you should notice about this book right here, and that is this. For a short period of time, what they did with some of these books is they gave them more of a, this one doesn't have a totally flat spine, but a flatter spine. Black Widow also had kind of a flat spine. So what you want to get, like, if possible, is more of a rounded spine. As you can see, this one here is definitely more of the flatter. Like even when I'll show you like the Marvel one right here, you can see the difference in the rounding of the spine from here to the flattening of the spine right here, because the rounder the spine is, the better it is, especially when you got a larger book like this. And as you can tell, there's a lot of stories included in here. This one included Strange Tales number 1 was the first appearance of the Man-Thing, pre-Swamp Thing, by the way. Astonishing Tales number 12 and 13, Fear 10 to 19, that's because he took over Adventures of Fear. Then Man-Thing got his own series, which went to issues 1 to 22. Then we got Monsters Unleashed 5, 8, 9, Giant Size Man-Thing, all 5 issues of that. Incredible Hulks 197, 198, Ravaging Hulk, issue number 7, Marvel Team Up 68, Marvel 2-in-1 43, and the second Man-Thing series was done in 1979 from 1 to 11, and then his appearance in Doctor Strange. Okay, here's another difference when it comes to the titles. So the early Marvel omnibuses would have something similar to this. So we would see kind of a faux leather to kind of, it was supposed to give it kind of a prestige style look. On the inside of Marvel Omnibuses, especially like these gold ones, look, they had these here. Beautiful, like, now when they got to stuff like these hairstyle books, oh, this would often be the, the one that you have in the store, but there'd also be a direct market cover as well. And don't worry, because you would get that too, because that will be right here on the inside of the book. And the cover that you probably got from the store is right here. This one was done differently. And that's a big omnibus, by the way, guys. I have read all through the ManThing one. It's a great book. It's a really, really great book. I was shocked at how much I ended up loving this book. Now, aside from character-centric books, Marvel also did creator-centric books as well. Here's one that I picked up for less than $10 at Zavvi. So always check out your Zavvi, guys. And this is Chris Claremont. So Chris Claremont is my one of my favorite writers. He wrote the definitive run on the X-Men, the one that made the X-Men popular again. But this is a book kind of detailing some of his other work. Some work on Man-Thing, so there's a bit of crossover with that. But a lot of different stuff. War is Hell was one of the reasons I got this book. So War is Hell is a series that he did in a comic called War is Hell. And basically what it was a character that was kind of cowardly, and he dies in war, during war. Like he's a regular guy, and he dies. So but his soul is cursed to come back into other people, and he dies in his issue in different bodies. Very, very interesting stuff, by the way. We got also his run on Black Goliath here. His stuff from Captain Britain. Some of his Doctor Strange issues. Fantastic Four versus X-Men is here, and we have some newer stuff like the Constant Champions isn't newer, but it's newer for me. And you have things like Mechanics and Big Hero 6. Yes, Big Hero 6, which they made a Disney movie out of. So you got stuff that have the earlier style of like Marvel art with lots and lots of word blends, like right here. And then you get into stuff like Mechanics. Having his newer style, and of course the Big Hero 6 stuff. Now, one of the neat things about collecting Marvel is that they do have ones for all ages. One of the very first ones that I picked up was this, and I know if you're a parent watching this, this might be a little bit interesting to you. Oh, by the way, just so you know, because I do think it's interesting to show these right here. The artwork on the inside for the Chris Claremont one's the bomb. Look at this right here. All the different characters. Some Wolverine there. And if you open it up right there, and it's like Man-Thing number 11, the last tear-stained issue for the second Man-Thing series. Beautiful stuff. Put that there. So, there was a Marvel Classics comic, and so what this did was it was a comic book that just basically did classic stories. They had a lot of really good stuff in here. They would have, along with the stories, they would have kind of an illustrated, one-page biography of the author that worked on it as well. And this is some great stuff. I have some classics illustrated comics themselves, like the original issues. But these have some great stories. If you want to get your younger person reading some of the classics without having them to go out and read all the classics, this has some great stuff. We got Last of the Mohicans here, War of the Worlds, Treasure Island, Ivanhoe, Count of Monte Cristo, The Odyssey, Robinson Crusoe, Frankenstein. Ooh, there's a good one. Master of the World, Food of the Gods. We got Moonstone, She, The Invisible Man. That's a good one. Iliad, Kidnapped, Pit and the Pendulum, and other Edgar Allan Poe stories. Prisoner of Zenda, Arabian Nights, First Man on the Moon, White Fang, The Prince and the Pauper, Robin Hood, and Alice in Wonderland. Let's look inside and see what the artwork's like. Because you're going to want to, because there's a lot of different artists that will work on this. It's itchy nose. So, And you do get some like pretty cool artists here. So here, for instance, is Moonstone, based on the classic novel of Wilkie Collins. Or if you want to see like probably something that you know a bit more, like here's Food of the Gods, which also became a horror movie, like 2 horror movies actually got a sequel. And just to show you the what I mean by so there'd be about the author right here where they talk about H.G. Wells. And this one right here, Food of the Gods, was drawn by, let's see if it's someone that we would know. We'll go up to the front because there's usually a contents page in some of these. Although I don't think this one has the contents page. Make a liar out of me now. No, this one doesn't have the contents page. But some of these here would be drawn by some very, very famous comic artists. It's a great one, and it's something that I would say is fantastic for not just like the younger, but the young at heart who want to look at some of these older stories. And it's a way to trick younger people into reading some of the classics. Maybe they'll get intrigued and want to read the actual books. That's what we hope for, right? Anyway. But it's not the only like type of younger stuff that they put out. There was a imprint when I was younger called Star Comics. Star Comics was a big deal when it came to Marvel. And one of the best ones, and it's a thin omnibus, so it's easy for like a younger person to pick up to, is Star Wars. Yes, we got Star Wars droids and Ewoks. So for those that are of my age or around that, or Star Wars fans, you're going to know that droids and Ewoks were 2 cartoon series. Ewoks lasted a bit longer than droids did, but both were really fun. So they initially had comic books from the Marvel like children's imprint of Star Comics. So Star Comics were meant to be definitely more youth friendly. Had some, as you can tell here by the style of art, but have some really, really great stuff in here. And just by the way, just like the other ones, there's going to be a lot of like features in the back. Marvel tends to have more features than DC does. It's rare when they don't. And like there's some neat stuff here, like especially in this one here. So they had like these things like the Ewoks Annual. So Ewoks Annual had like find the 2 identical ones. Here's some prose stories. There's a spot the names type of thing there. Word searches, pictures, just some great stuff. So as you can see, when it comes to collecting Marvel, you got stuff for all ages. And since we are talking about Star Wars, where to start? I mean, there are so many epic collections out there, so many different volumes of dealing with Star Wars. I'm going to tell you where I think is the best place to start right now if you want to start reading Star Wars comics. Say you saw the Disney stuff and it didn't really grab you the way that you wish it would have. Maybe there was like, you're like, oh man, I really wish I had that like feeling of when I watched Star Wars in the original trilogy back in the day. Then you're older like me. Then you want to read this. This is Star Wars by Jason Aaron. It is on the best run of the Star Wars characters. This is fantastic, and after you buy this, by the way, you are gonna immediately go out and buy Darth Vader by Charles Soule and Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen, which fit in with this, and it has some amazing stuff. And then you're gonna look at Dr. Aphra, trust me, because one thing that this does, and it does it extremely well, is it writes the characters just like the films. So not only that, but you are getting some amazing artwork in here. Look at this. You want to get that feeling of Star Wars back again? That like, oh man, what does it feel like when I first watched Star Wars? This is it. This is it right here. While we're looking at licensed stuff, let's look at 2 different versions of a licensed character. One that they unfortunately just lost the license to, and that will be Conan. This here is Conan the Barbarian. It was the color comic that was done that could go on a newsstand. And you got your whole bunch of Conan right here. Early stuff is written by Roy Thomas. This stuff here, we're at around volume 5. So you're getting like J.M. DeMatteis, Bruce Jones, a little bit of like of Roy Thomas and kind of a backup story. But even like the the color stuff had just incredible artwork here. Just look at that. Again, every one of these had extensively written and researched forwards, usually by Roy Thomas, but this one here is by J.M.D. Mateus. Always read the forwards after you read the book because spoilers. There's lots of spoilers in the forwards of these books. So that's something to let you know right away because you will, especially if you haven't read. If you read the story before, you're going to be okay. You're going to get something right. But if you haven't, then definitely wait. And of course, there is the one that's more for the adults, and that is the Savage Sword of Conan. This was a black and white magazine that let you have like the blood and the nudity and all like the really like intense Conan, like really being the savage characters. Hence the Savage Sword. These often like went from the like fantasy and horror, like especially if you got Bruce Jones doing it. Bruce Jones did some amazing stuff, and so there's some great stuff in here. And here's one of the big things you're going to notice that's different from DC than Marvel. And I want to bring that here. See this right here? This is a letters page. This should be like a standard in when you're collecting, especially older omnibuses like this. A lot of newer omnibuses didn't have newer books didn't always have a letters page going in them, but these did. So if the color's in cover, you're going to have color artwork for the cover. The book is definitely going to be in black and white, and I got to be very careful here because there's a lot of nudity and violence and stuff in here. So I want to pick like a page where it's actually fairly safe. But you get some amazing artwork right here. This was never meant to be colored and never should be. Never like recolor stuff that's not colored. But what's really neat about this particular volume, because this is volume, was it volume 5, I think? No, volume 6, is that this was around the time that Conan the Barbarian, the movie, came out. So the official comic book adaptation of Conan the Barbarian is in the back of this. And it is utterly fantastic. There's like articles in here as well, like talking about Conan the movie. Just so much great stuff. And because this was a magazine size one, you would have magazine style articles on the filming of Conan there, which is great. All right. Events. We had to get to this. Marvel does a lot of events. There are two types of omnibuses when it comes to events. There is this one right here, which is long in a print, so flex here. This is Marvel Secret Wars #2. A lot of people were iffy on Marvel Secret Wars #2. This is one of my jams. I grew up with this one. I love the Beyonder in this. I love the fact that he kind of comes down to Earth and he's like taught things by people. Look how massive, how many stories are in this one right here. One of the neat things here is that I think, was it Alpha Flight or there's one comic here, and their last issue is a crossover. Yeah, I guess they didn't get too much love, right? The last issue was a crossover. It's well mapped. It's very important. When a crossover is being done, it's a crossover that's being done from like different books. So there can sometimes be like a mini series or maxi series from 4 to 6 to 12 issues, and there'll be like tie-ins all throughout. If it's mapped well, then what will happen is like what we got in Secret Wars, where we get the entire story mapped through the different issues. If it's not mapped so well, but it's a great story that you need to have, this is Absolute Carnage. Absolute Carnage was a 5-issue miniseries with a bunch of crossover issues in between, a lot of tie-ins. What they've done for this one, however, is they have taken the 5-issue miniseries, Absolute Carnage, and put all 5 issues in a row at the beginning of the omnibus, then all the tie-ins afterwards. So for this book here, I had to go online and check out and see the reading order for Absolute Carnage so that I was reading it in the correct order. So that I wasn't just reading the entire miniseries and going back reading the tie-ins afterwards. It's kind of fruitless and doesn't work, but this is amazing though. The artwork on this, the stories in this, Absolute Carnage is definitely it's prelude to the King in Black storyline, but so good. Look at this. Look at this right here. It is utterly fantastic. And there's a lot of horror-centric stuff. So if you're a horror fan, like this is a good one. This particular issue with this little kid that lets this dog into the house. It's just really, really good. So remember when I talked about the Savage Sword of Conan. Savage Sword of Conan was a magazine style one with a lot of mostly comic with some stories in there. However, there were other things like The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. Now, this is a magazine with some comics in there. It's the reverse. So this is mostly articles with some comics as well. So as you can see right here, The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. This is the final volume. This is volume 2. There's only 2 volumes of these that were made. And rather than having, we'd get some comic stories right here, but the majority of these would have things on Kung Fu, like history of the empty hand, history of Bruce Lee films, an interview with a very, very young Chuck Norris, talking about martial arts from people that actually really enjoy martial arts. And last but not least for this series, or for this episode of the series, because there's going to be a volume 2 to this one, is the one you have to grab now, the out of prints, the ones that if you're lucky, you see them somewhere online or in a store, at a bookstore. Welcome to Shang Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. You can't buy these anymore. If you see one, grab it. Why? Because these are significantly going up in price and they're not going to be reprinted. Why not? Because much like Conan, they lost the rights, but not the rights to Master Kung Fu. Obviously, Master Kung Fu is a Shang-Chi is a character in the Marvel Universe, but they had to change his origin. See, Shang-Chi, when he was initially introduced as the Master Kung Fu, his father was Fu Manchu, the character created by Sax Rohmer. However, after a while, they decided, hey, we're not going to keep playing Sax Rohmer every time we want to use the Shang-Chi character. And I think Sax Rohmer didn't let them. So what they did was he actually had to change his origin, say that it wasn't like Fu Manchu, it's a different character. This is a really good book too, by the way. One of the neat things about this, look at the amount of panels on one page. So the thing here was that to give it more of a cinematic feel, because this was a book that was dealing with, obviously, Kung Fu. It was dealing at a time when that martial arts movies were kind of at their peak. That they wanted to make it feel like you're watching an action scene in a martial arts film. So rather than the regular 46 panel layout they'd have for a comic book, they would use a lot more panels in certain pages to give a more fluidity and more of kind of a martial arts feel, like you're actually watching a martial arts scene. Those are great books to check out, and it's kind of a spy martial arts book, really well done. The one I have there is volume 2, so it's definitely one of the early volumes. So there you go. That is the first in what's probably going to be a 2 to 3 part series in collecting omnibuses Marvel style. We did a DC one, and luckily we were able to get that one in one episode. But this one here, running at 23 minutes already. I don't think we're going to get to do any more to this one right now. So we'll see you here next time for collecting Marvel Omnibuses, Volume 2. Hey there, thanks for staying. Anyway, we have to look at, you're probably wondering why we didn't talk about Spider-Man or the X-Men, because that's going to be part of the next part of collecting. They're kind of on their own level. But I wanted to put in an extra one, kind of one that for staying after the credit. Here it is right here. This is Cosmic Ghost Rider by Donny Cates. Really good on this. Has issues from Thanos, because Thanos had his own series at one point. 13, 18, Cosmic Ghost Rider, the miniseries 1 to 5. Then Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys the Marvel Universe, which is hilarious. Issues 1 to 6, Guardians of the Galaxy issues, the first 6 issues of the 2019 series. Avengers 22 to 25. I think that's a team up between Cosmic Ghost Rider and other Ghost Riders. Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider 1 to 5. And this is they say it's volume 1, so there's another volume they can do with this. Let me show you the inside cover of this one, by the way, because I love the art on this. If you don't know who the Cosmic Ghost Rider is and you're thinking of reading it, Don't look ahead of time to see who he is, because it was a bit of the mystery of the series. Was who was the Cosmic Ghost Rider? And I'm gonna try to not show you. But it had some fantastic artwork and stylized stuff in here. What was really cool is when they got to he destroys the Marvel Universe. So basically he's going through time at certain aspects of the Marvel Universe and sort of destroying it. So there's a scene, Spider-Man, and where Spider-Man throws his costume in issue 50 into the garbage can. And, it's like, I'm not going to be Spider-Man anymore. And this was the cover to Cosmic Ghost Rider. Anyway, love that comic series. Check it out. I'll see you here next time for the part 2, volume 2. Maybe that's a nice way to put it. Volume 2 of collecting Marvel Omnibuses. Talk to you later.